CVE database administered by MITRE is scheduled to go offline. Chinese authorities admit, well, like we didn't know, to hacking telecom and other critical infrastructure in the US, and Hertz has a data breach. All this and more on this week's Executive Brief. Hello everyone and welcome back to another week of our Cybersecurity Executive Brief. I am Corey Wolf, Director of Offensive Security at Risk 360, and today is Wednesday, April 16th. Unfortunately, the CVE database continues to have its problems. Over the past few months, 6 months to a year, there have been a huge backlog in submissions to where they basically allowed more CNAs, CVE naming authorities into the mix and to try and help with this backlog. They tried to do what they could. I think they got up to date, but basically what they said was before 2018, CVEs will no longer be updated. So any CVE before 2018 will no longer be updated. Unfortunately, so you're going to know, I cheat a little bit. I usually record the Wednesday briefing on Tuesday nights, but at the time of recording, there is breaking news that the CVE database, which is administered by MITRE, will go offline since MITRE will be losing its funding for the project. So some statements were put out today saying that Wednesday, April 16th, the CVE database will be going offline because they were unable to renew the funding for MITRE to administer it. And so this is big news. I don't know what's going to happen here. It's very interesting to see how it plays out. But I first learned about it through LinkedIn. Kevin Beaumont, who's been around forever, very well-known threat intelligence, and as you can see here, Cyber Weatherman posted this posted this memo supposedly from the VP and Director of the Center for Securing the Homeland at MITRE, which is the business unit within MITRE that administers the database, saying that on Wednesday, April 16th, the current contracting pathway for MITRE to develop, operate, and modernize CVE and several other related programs, such as CWE, will expire. The government continues to make considerable efforts to continue MITRE's role in support of the program. If a break in service were to occur, we anticipate multiple impacts to CVE, including deterioration of national vulnerability databases. So the NIST National Vulnerability Database, for example, relies on CVE, tool vendors, incident response operations, and all manner of critical infrastructure. So I first saw this, I went, no way. I don't believe it. But of course, Brian Krebs has done the follow-up here, and he says here, so I reached out to MITRE and they confirmed it is for real. Here's the contract, which is through the Department of Homeland Security and has been renewed annually on the 16th or 17th of April. MITRE's CVE database is likely going offline tomorrow, which would be April 16th. They've told me that for now, historical CVE records will be available at GitHub, which is a GitHub link. And so, yeah, I mean, this is kind of big. So, for those of you not familiar with how this process works, the Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures database, if you find an issue and you want to submit and create a CVE for it, what happens is you take your CVE submission and you send it to a CNA, a CVE naming authority. The CVE database in general and the NIST National Vulnerability Database have been having some serious issues over the past 6 to 12 months. In fact, actually, I think they might have paused submissions, but they had a backlog of CVE submissions that they just couldn't process in time. They just didn't have enough manpower to do it and to handle it. And so there was a huge backlog, and that if you submitted a CVE, it could take months for that CVE to actually be published, which is not great, right? So this has been happening for 12 months or so now. And they've been seeing just lots of issues, just various reasons, but essentially didn't have enough manpower. So they've gone through that. They eventually said that, hey, so what they also do is they will routinely go through and refresh CVEs with new up-to-date information. So what they've recently said is anything before 2018 will not be refreshed. They will not look at it again. It's just is what it is. And that was presumably so that they could update and deal with all of these new CVEs. CVE database is used by everything. So EDR, threat intelligence, all kinds of vendors use this to to give up-to-date information. Patch management. So anytime something, well, I mean, Microsoft has their own naming system, but the point is that, you know, the CVE number is a singular way for everyone to know about the same vulnerability. So imagine, I think Microsoft just on their last patch Tuesday put out 126 or 128 patches, which probably all had CVEs. Maybe not all of them, but they probably all had CVE numbers. This is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It's very concerning that basically no new CVEs going forward as it stands right now. Now, of course, by the time you watch this video, things might have changed. But as it stands right now, nothing new will be added to the CVE database. And again, this is how EDR tracks things. This is how threat intelligence tracks things. This is how everybody tracks vulnerabilities. Not just in the US, but across the world. And so if this database was to go down, which it does appear as though it's going to, unless something happens in the next 24 hours, that's going to be a real issue. So they have, as you can see here from Krebs, they have told me that for now, historical CVE records will be available at GitHub, which I don't think I've actually clicked this. So now we can check it out. Oh, it's basically just the CVE database itself. Excuse me. So it will be available on GitHub, but nothing new will be added. So this is going to require some workarounds from all the vendors that use it. It's going to require some significant engineering just to use the CVE database of the old CVEs. So that's, you know, for nothing new. That's just the old ones. Going forward, it's going to require some serious engineering from a lot of vendors. And I wonder why they waited till the 15th to really sound the alarm. I'm guessing because if you look at their memo here, what does it say? The government continues to make considerable efforts to continue MITRE's role in support of the program. So kind of vague. The government continues to make considerable efforts. I have my own issues with MITRE, which I won't get into right now, but that's an interesting line. But at the end of the day, probably their funding is just getting cut, or they're not getting nearly enough funding to maintain the database. Who knows? Yes, there are lots of cuts going on across the government right now, but you know, I don't know. It seems like from this wording, it seems like they just weren't getting enough of what they needed to maintain the database. So I don't know why they waited so long. I'm curious to see what happens with the engineering, the software engineering that's going to go on to try and fix this. Yeah, I mean, it's a serious thing. I hope something gets worked out. One thought is that maybe the CNAs, the CVE naming authorities, will come together and create their own nonprofit, because these CNAs are big companies, most of them. I mean, not all of them, but it's filled with a lot of big companies that are part of this, the process. And so one thought is, well, maybe these CNAs will come together, create their own nonprofit that will manage the CVE database and administer it going forward. But this is a big hit globally, not just in the US. I can't even explain how many tools, how many vendors, how much technology relies on the CVE database. So breaking news. We'll see how this plays out. Hopefully it works out, because as you can see, MITRE continues to be committed to CVE as a global resource. It truly is a global resource, and it's kind of scary, a little scary. But yeah, what are you going to do? I hope it gets worked out. Last week, China admit cyber attacks on the U.S. So this is where China openly admitted it was behind a series of cyber attacks on U.S. infrastructure in a secret meeting with American officials. So I believe this happened before Trump came into office. Yeah, the meeting between security teams taking place in Switzerland last year during Joe Biden's last few weeks as U.S. president. So this happened January, December. But what they're talking about is Volt Typhoon. So a Chinese APT known as Volt Typhoon, which is responsible for the telecom attacks on AT&T, Verizon, the big ones. They were in those telecom networks for months. They're probably still there, if we're being honest. Now, the telecom companies, of course, said, no, we got rid of them. I'd be surprised if they did. The Volt Typhoon is a very well-resourced and just top-notch APT. And I'd be surprised if they weren't still in those telecom companies. Volt Typhoon, I believe, is also responsible for the ISP compromise in Guam. So if you think about where Guam is, it sits between Asia and North America, which means that there are lots of internet trunks, telecom trunk lines running through it. So if you were able to compromise an ISP on the island, you'd be able to do a lot of different things. One thought is that, in the case of a military conflict, you could shut down that ISP, which would cut off, not all of the traffic, because of course there's redundancies, but if you were to cut off that one in Guam, you'd cause serious issues for internet traffic coming in and out of North America. Same thing with the telecom companies. In the past, China came up and a lot of their focus was around IP and IP theft, which they did for decades. In the last probably 5 years, we've seen them shift to more pre-positioning attacks, to where they're embedded within systems so that in the case of a military conflict or something else, they're there and they're ready to go if needed. In the meantime, what they can do is they can use it to gather lots of intel and just just get lots of signals intelligence, classic signals intelligence. So apparently they admitted to it. I think it was members of the Chinese delegation indicated to their U.S. counterparts in December that they have spent years targeting computer networks and electrical grids, water supplies and ports. Water supplies, there should be a comma there, and ports, in what appeared to be a warning against Washington providing support to Taiwan. So, of course, China is not happy with us providing support to Taiwan, and so they're going in about that. So, yeah, I mean, it's not new. If you're in it every day, this isn't necessarily news. Well, you kind of know, but I guess supposedly they admitted it, and it's really no surprise to me. Hertz admits compromise here, data breach. So Hertz confirms customer info, driver's licenses stolen in data breach. So in, a couple months back, so there's a file transfer appliance developed by Clio. So let's see. Basically, there's a bunch of file transfer appliances that had 0 days in them, and the ransomware crew Clop had actually exploited them. So apparently there were 0 days. File transfer appliances over the past 3 years have just been getting absolutely wrecked left and right. There was, I can't think of it right now. Another one with an A I can't think of, but there's been a whole bunch of them over the past 3 years that have been specifically targeted with not only 0 day attacks, but just tried and true vulnerabilities that people just didn't patch in their file transfer appliance. So that's what it looks like happened here. It looks like in October of 2024 and December of 2024, an unauthorized third party exploited 0 day vulnerabilities within Clio's platform and gained access to customer data. Hertz says a small number may have had their social security numbers or government ID stolen. As well as, which I don't understand why, but a very small number of individuals may have had their Social Security or other government ID numbers, passport information, Medicare or Medicaid ID associated with workers' compensation claims. So maybe that was an internal thing. Or injury-related information associated with vehicle accident claims. Oh, no, that makes sense. Vehicle accident claims impacted by the event. So they didn't share how many customers were impacted, but we do know that at least in Maine, 3,400 people in the state are receiving notifications. What do you know, everybody? Good news, everybody. They're offering 2 years of free identity monitoring services. I should have opened an identity monitoring service. That's what I should have done. Thanks for the help, Hertz. So it says that it didn't detect any misuse of personal information for fraudulent purposes. They have shown up on Clop's dark web leak site, where Clop has, basically said, "Hey, we have it." So another file transfer appliance gets popped. It's unfortunately it's nothing new, and I should have invested in identity theft or identity monitoring services. You're either too early or too late. What can you do? That's it for this week's executive brief. We'll see what happens with the CVE database. If you use Hertz, I brought that one up this week because I use Hertz. I travel a decent amount and I use it. So thank you, Hertz. But we'll see what happens with the CVE database. Of course, the Chinese actually admitted to doing what everyone kind of knew they were doing anyways. And that's it for this week. Leaving you off on a happy note. It feels like summer here in Pennsylvania. Thank God. I hope it feels like summer where you are too. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And guess what? I'll see you here next Wednesday. Speak soon.